On January 8th, Chris Kirschner and Sam Amick of The Athletic wrote an article about the Atlanta Hawks, specifically a recent film session they had. Apparently, there were some disagreements, bordering on arguments between Trae Young and John Collins, the two cornerstones of the Hawks franchise. The article described this encounter in detail. John Collins, the fourth-year big man who just weeks before bet on himself in a big way during his failed extension talks with the Hawks, shared his unfiltered and unhappy views about the way franchise centerpiece Trae Young was running the offense. According to three sources who were either in the session or had knowledge of what was said, Collins raised several issues about the way these Hawks were functioning with Young at the helm. Collins talked about the need to get into offensive sets more quickly and to limit all those early shot clock attempts that leave his teammates on the outside looking in. He shared his desire to be more involved and expressed a desire for more ball movement and flow on offense. There was no back and forth between the two, but the pointed criticism caught the attention of the room, and Young, sources say, made it clear to others later that he strongly disagreed with Collins' assessment. How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and today, let's talk about Trae Young and John Collins. The struggles they're going through, both on and off the court. The two faces of the franchise seem to be butting heads, and it's putting the rest of the team in an awkward situation. Anyway, the discussions from this meeting carried over to the actual games, as it was a possible reason for Trae's lethargic stretch of games in the early half of January. There seems to be a conflict of interest here. For John Collins, there's no questioning his talent and potential. In the previous season, at just 22 years old, Collins became a legit 20-10 player, although he was kinda drowned out by all the hype surrounding Trae Young, who grabbed most of the attention on the Hawks. However, Collins' efficiency, his rebounding, and his dominance in the paint proved to the organization that he was going to be a star. The Hawks believed in him, but apparently not enough to honor his request for a max extension. Reportedly, they offered him a $90 million extension, and that's still a lot, but he rejected it. Collins said that he was aiming for the max, which for him would be roughly $125 million for 4 years. From my perspective, it does seem like the Hawks are hesitant on him. On one hand, they want to keep him, but on the other hand, at what price? Recently, they've also added other frontcourt players. Clint Capella was acquired in a trade last year, and over the offseason, they signed Danilo Gallinari and drafted Okongwu at number 6, a possible replacement for Collins. It's clear they have some backup plans if he does feel unsatisfied in Atlanta and wants to leave. As a team, the rest of the roster has been doing pretty well actually. For Collins and Young, though, their numbers have dropped off significantly compared to last season. However, if we dive deeper into the numbers, especially the numbers that indicate how they've been playing together, it's much more interesting. So, from the article, Collins raised up the point that he felt like he wasn't getting the ball enough. He felt that Trae wasn't passing him the ball as much as previous seasons. Is this actually true? Well, according to NBA.com stats and PBPstats.com, here are the numbers. In Trae's rookie season, per 36 minutes, he passed the ball to Collins 22.3 times per game, generating 4 assists to him. That was 8th in the entire NBA out of every 2-player combination. In Trae's sophomore season, he assisted Collins 4.7 times per 36 minutes. That's even better, and Collins had a career season. However, so far in the 2021 season, that rate has dropped to just 3.6 assists per 36 minutes. It's not because Trae is not passing the ball enough, it's that he's actually passing the ball more to other players instead of Collins. So it is true that Collins is getting the ball way less, but overall, Trae has spent more time getting other players involved in the offense, which is what he talked about in the film session. His most assisted player is no longer Collins, it's DeAndre Hunter, a second-year wing player, who's also made tremendous strides. So far, their offense has looked way better than before. going from 26th in offensive rating to 13th. That's a massive improvement. Overall, the Hawks' offense has shifted more to the wings and slightly moved away from the paint, which upset Collins, but it's worked out better for the team. Here's where the conflict of interest comes in. We know Collins rejected a $90 million extension because he hoped to play the season out to earn himself a max extension from the Hawks, thinking that he surely could get it. To do this though, he needs more touches. Even if it is detrimental to the team, he's more concerned with getting that contract. So even with the Hawks' decent start to the season, Collins has been upset that he probably won't get that massive extension he's looking for. From my perspective, he did bring up some good points in the film section, like how they should move the ball more and they need to get into their offensive sets more quickly, but he does seem more concerned with himself and getting that contract. For Trae, he's not concerned with this. He just wants to win, and by spreading out his passes, it's been better for the Hawks' offense. There's no denying that. Unfortunately, his problem has been something that critics have always railed him about: his shot selection. You heard Collins mention that Trae sometimes shoots way too fast, and he does have a point. The problem in particular seems to be that he thinks he's a better shooter than he actually is. Now, I'm not saying he's a bad shooter, far from it. He's a great shooter actually, but he's no Steph Curry. No matter how much the media tries to compare him to Steph, they're not the same. While his sophomore season was spectacular, perhaps we shouldn't expect to see that every single year. Trae is more of a natural point guard, Steve Nash-esque, and scoring 30 points a game is not a necessity, but sometimes he feels pressured to do too much. Looking at his shot selection this season, it hasn't been that different compared to previous seasons, so you can just say his shots aren't falling, and sooner or later, they will start falling. But with a closer look, you can see some changes in the shots he takes. Now, he's been taking nearly half of his shots within 10 feet of the basket, a much higher number than before. This isn't his strong suit, as he was never great at finishing at the rim. As of this video, he's only hit 54% of his shots at the rim, and 36% overall in the paint. Normally, he doesn't take that many attempts from those areas, but this season, he has. It's a combination of defenders forcing him to drive as they know his weaknesses now. And also because he's getting played way too tight on the perimeter, so he needs to adjust. Usually, he mitigates these low-efficiency attempts by shooting more threes, but so far, that hasn't worked either. Trae's three-point percentage has been absolutely awful, as he's currently hitting just 26% from there. The Hawks, unlike most other rebuilding teams, we actually know who their franchise players are and who they're rebuilding around for the foreseeable future, or at least we thought we did. We know Trae is their guy, but Collins? He was their guy too, but I don't know anymore. His role has changed, the Hawks' offense has changed. He's been getting less touches to his dismay. There's no question Trae will stay on the team, but for John Collins, I don't think he's gonna get the contract he's looking for. And this season will be highly important to how the Hawks' future plays out. There's been rumors across the league that Collins is a player that many other executives and GMs are paying close attention to. Everyone's aware of the situation in Atlanta, especially with him yet to sign an extension. While the Hawks haven't explicitly said he was available, we might see them starting to take some calls as the deadline approaches. Needless to say, the Hawks were once a 60-win team not too long ago, and despite blowing up their roster, they've rebuilt very well and very quickly. But they're going through some growing pains. Collins' future is uncertain, and we don't know if his situation is salvageable. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on these two guys, and do you foresee a possible scenario where Collins gets traded by the deadline? On the flip side, do you see a scenario where Collins actually gets the maximum $120 million he's looking for? I feel like the former scenario is more likely to happen. Let me know in the comments. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.